Thrash metal hails! It's time to go to the United Kingdom, this time with a band called Shrapnel. This band has been out there for almost past 10 years, and they have gotten out a few albums already. This one is through Candlelight slash Spine Farm. Curious thing because, Spine Farm is a Finnish label that started pretty much with the extreme metal, and Candlelight, then again, the same thing, none of which are usually known for their work with thrash metal so much as with, black metal and death metal mostly. But this is how it is, and now they are part of a bigger corporation. Anyway, here it is, how this album called Palace for the Insane looks like. To be honest, I have no idea what the name really means, but for me it kind of reminds me of churches and temples, places of worship, because usually the religious type, well, they are kind of insane. As you can see, pretty much charts from the picture here, these guys are no newbies. They are probably rather experienced and seen a lot. And it kind of shows throughout the album as well, because, well, let's put it this way. This album is not made by guys who just started their first band or whatever. Anyway, the thing here is, this is an album that is gotten me a little bit divided. There are very much good sides, and there are sides which are not that good. And it makes this album a little bit tricky to, first of all, review, but also like and listen to. Thing here is, this album is almost 60 minutes long, which is way too much for most thrash metal albums. Why so? Because thrash metal tends to be rather sporadic in nature, with their fast tempo and all that stuff, and as such, most albums cannot really bear the weight of the album so much. That is the intensity, fast tempo, and whatever there are to make albums sounding like a real thrash metal albums. There are always exceptions, but this is not the one that is very much, in my opinion anyway, doing very good with its length. Now, some people are totally disagreeing, so maybe they are more right than me, having this 89% of average score here. Maybe you should be reading them instead of listening to what I have to say about this, but anyway, here it goes. As you can see, this is 12 tracks with some 53 minutes, almost an hour that is. And as you can see, these are not the shortest tracks, though not too lengthy, overall, in general. But I don't know, so many bands doing almost like 6 minutes tracks, it's like, I don't know, it's not gonna cut it. But the point here is not even the length. That is not the major flaw here. It's just part of the problem, so to speak. But what really is here bugging me is that while this album is dotted a little bit, very good riffs here and there, cool mosh parts and all that stuff, most of the tracks are way too full of rather mediocre songwriting. That is not to say this album is bad, by no means. When I mean mediocre, I mean mediocre. Not really bad, but not good either. Thing here is, this album is done with great production, and I also love the vocals. They have this kind of maybe not unique style, but kind of something personal, personal, not maybe being the right word, but there's something that kind of stands out. It's not your generic thrash metal vocalist, but something that has this personality. That is probably what I was looking for. Anyway, I know it's not gonna do it for everybody. For some people, these vocals might be a little bit too, weird or just out of place. But for me, they kind of represent what it was going on in the 80s. That is with thrash metal. So if only vocals and the production would define an album, this would be a great album. Make no mistake. But when it comes to the actual songwriting, it's very, very bumpy road. First of all, there are way too many riffs which are more like boring. I want to skip them. This being said after multiple listens. And also sometimes it feels like the band is, kind of like making them last for too long. So once again, versus having 3 minutes on average kind of songs, with 5 or almost 6 minutes a song, it's like, it's not gonna cut it. It gets boring. It gets too repetitive, much like my reviews. And as such, I find this album kind of hard to get into. Now also, the first part of the album is pretty much more on this mediocrity side. And only towards the end, the band actually starts kind of, getting to the level where it's supposed to be from the very beginning. For example, the track number 10, Violent Now Forever, probably the best track on the album. And it's track number 10 out of 12 tracks. Also with Turn Off the Lights, track number 7, that is one of the better ones. When I was actually checking out like my gear, so what is this track? Because this has some cool parts, cool trash chorus parts, if you will. And it was like, okay, now it's finally getting there. But the first tracks are more like, almost like a snooze fest. So I'm very, very divided with this album. I kind of like it, but I kind of don't. Which makes this album very, very tough cookie to crack. So if only this was some, 20 minutes shorter maybe, if this only was like a low-fat album with thrash metal that would just kill my neck because of more parts, I would just be praising this all the way down. Now it feels like too much fat, not my cup of tea. Anyway, if you're enjoying good sounding thrash and you don't mind this kind of a personality to vocals, maybe you can just overlook and decide not to care about these so-called weaker riffs. I mean, I like the style of what Shrapnel is doing, because there's not too many good thrash metal bands these days. Not in my opinion anyway. So there's a lot of hope for this band to kind of trim the fat off and come back in a new album after this one. At least that's what I'm hoping for. Anyway, now all my words being said, check out the samples and decide what to do with it. You will find those links in the description box. Thank you for watching, bye bye and take care.